Hello, dear friends, and welcome to the 2026 St. Basil Writers Workshop Open House. This is the fourth time we are running this open house because we are in the application window for our fourth cohort, which is very exciting. I have told the story many times to many different people about how St. Basil's came to be, but some of you are here for the first time, so you'll get to hear this story. And those of you who have heard it before, I am sorry. You're going to have to grin and bear it. And perhaps there will be parts of it that you haven't heard before, because every time I tell it, this is the thing that my mom says about my dad. Every time he tells a story, new and unexpected elements emerge. And he's already 78. So the new and unexpected elements are probably already hagiographical and not historical, probably made up, but no one knows because he's 78. So neither will you. You will not know either. Though I'm not 78. So it was a rather warm New York afternoon. I live in central New York, beautiful, one of the most beautiful places on earth, in July. In February, it's one of the worst places on earth, but that's a different story. And my wife was about to have baby number 4. Now, for context, baby number 1 was born the way that most babies are born in the US, in a hospital, under the expert supervision of a doctor. That birth was the single most traumatic event of my life, my wife's life, and my son's life. He almost didn't make it. And looking on it in retrospect, it was as much the fault of the doctor as it was the fault of simple nature, chance, providence, whatever you like. In any case, my wife couldn't stand for 2 weeks after that first birth. It was awful. Every single birth after that, I have 4 kids, moved further and further away from the institutional space that is the rural American hospital. Those of you who know, you know. And the final one was a home birth, which on the one hand, some of you are cringing on the inside thinking, you people are insane. What are you doing to these poor children? How are they possibly going to survive any potential disaster? And those of you who actually know are like, yes, finally they got to it by baby number 4. I wasn't quite there yet because we hadn't had baby number 4 yet, and my wife tends to have babies over a period of about a week. I should have known that things would take that long when on our first date, after having a wonderful conversation for about 4.5 hours in a Moscow cafe near to the Tretyakov Gallery, one of the most beautiful art museums in the world. After a long conversation, she disappeared to powder her nose and didn't appear for half an hour again after that. I thought she had run away. She came back after that half an hour as if nothing had happened. And here I was, panting, sweating, thinking, oh my Lord, the woman I'm going to marry has run away from me. But no, that's simply her rhythm. That's how she moves through life. And yes, her labor is just as, shall we use the word, deliberate. So we are in the slightly less deliberate stage of the birth process, day 3 of 7 or so, and I get a phone call. This is a phone call from a friend of mine who before that had tried to, had been very interested in my various creative endeavors and had tried previously to set me up with other people to do. He's a connector. He's very good at that. He's a very good connector of people in the Orthodox Christian world who like to do creative things. And I answer the phone and he says, listen, I want to make your dreams come true. If there's one thing you could do in your writing life, what would it be? I want to make it happen. And at that moment, of course, I hear the acceleration of the process happening upstairs in the home birth. So I'm thinking, day 3, it's probably going to go on for another few days, but you never know. So I asked him to wait for a week because there was a different kind of birth going on, not a creative one, but a physical one. A week later, after the baby was, yes, born quite beautifully and wonderfully without a single hitch, and not surprisingly, he is the most healthy, hardy, and most interesting of the 4 children, but that's an entirely different conversation for a different group. I called Father Adam back and I said, because I had time to think about it, as one does after a birth, there's plenty of downtime when both wife and child are dead asleep. and you can think about all kinds of interesting things. Or you can when you have baby number one. By the time you have baby number four, you don't have time to think at all. Again, different conversation for a different group. But I figured out what I wanted. I wanted the definitive author craft workshop instruction for people who are not beginners. There's plenty of that stuff out there. But people who are on the cusp of publication or recently published and who need that last bit of craft push, that last bit of instruction, that last bit of technical training that they don't know that they need to get them either over the creative hump that they have or over the hump between not published and published. And the way I wanted to do this is by collecting all of the most exciting people that I myself follow and I myself have learned from. Jonathan Pageau, Paul Kingsnorth, Catherine Hyde, and several others. And I expressed this idea of this crazy, insane, year-long workshop to Father Adam, my friend, and he said, yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing I want to make happen. Let's make it happen. You talk to all the people, and if they're ready to go, I'm going to make it happen. And for some bizarre reason, I emailed or called every single one of the people on my list. And every single one of them, including Paul Kingsnorth, who's now, stratospheric in terms of his influence and position in the culture, every single one of them, without even thinking about it, said yes. That doesn't happen. It's not normal. You usually have a list of, the people you want, and then you have a, second list of people that you stick in when half of the people you want don't actually come. Every single one of them said yes. Not only that, but they kept saying yes, even after year 2, where we completely bombed and had 0 students in the second year, and we had to essentially cancel the program for a year and have cohort 2 in year 3. And they still came back. Not only that, but they kept adapting their own programs and growing it specifically for the program, because the program itself began to have oh no, you are not the second cohort, Abby, you are the third. Absolutely. So, and it kept growing, and so much so that Paul Kingsnorth, of all people, even adapted his very successful course called Rewilding Your Words that he's been offering for years to mostly people who aren't Christian, and specifically redid it for a Christian audience in a way that this year, cohort 3, you guys were the first to have that course specifically done for Christians, and it's a remarkable course. And so there it happened. So for 4 years and 3 cohorts now, we've been doing this insane, ridiculous program. And it's been one of the most life-changing things for me, as well as I hope the people who have attended it and who are still attending it, they'll tell you whether or not that's true. Not simply because it's an opportunity to bring a dream into reality, but because it has started something that I think is going to be transformational for our world, our culture in the long term. Something about this storytelling moment is really appealing to people who have been isolated and disillusioned by the direction of the technology, the culture, the elite institutions. Everything has seemed to leave us behind. There is no real standard for good literature anymore. And this is true not only in the Christian world, but it's true also in the secular world. Every other cultural piece that you read in the Atlantic or New York Magazine or the New Yorker is about the death of American literature. I can quote you a whole bunch of them that just came out over the past few months. People are aware of this, but they don't know what to do about it. And so here we are, quietly plugging away at this little project, and it's starting to bear fruit. We now have a publishing arm, which I'll talk about a little bit later, that's connected to St. Basil's, and we have students that have already been published successfully, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. Perhaps I should tell you, though, what we are not. We are not an MFA program. If ever anybody says MFA in front of you, most of the time you'll start hearing me politely cuss them out of the room and say nasty things about those kinds of programs. Because if you don't know, most creative writing programs, especially MFA programs, don't actually exist to help you publish. They exist to make you an MFA teacher. Yes, indeed. They are the kinds of programs that exist to perpetuate themselves. You know what else does that? Cancer. Hmm. We are not that. We do not do that. We want you to learn the techniques of fiction writing because there are techniques. It is a technical art, one that is not, of course, devoid of talent, inspiration, and creativity. But if you don't have the bottom level technique down, you're never going to be able, unless you're a very intuitive and brilliant and inspired writer, of which there are some, but not many, you're never going to be able to actually craft a thing that will be publishable. So we are not an MFA program. What else are we not? We are not an online exclusive program. The strength of this program is the intense bond that is made, that is created within each cohort. We keep these groups small on purpose because we start the program with an in-person retreat in a beautiful place near Lake George in the Adirondacks in upstate New York, in a place where there is hardly any internet or cell service. Gorgeous, gorgeous countryside, and an opportunity to, whether you are an introvert or not, this time we were lucky we had many extroverts to keep us introverts comfortable in our introversion. There have been years when everybody was an introvert. That was tough, but it's okay, we managed. And this, for 5-6 days, at the very beginning of the program, we get to know each other and we practice. We learn a few basics from me and from the other professors, and we practice and we get to know each other and we grow as a small community within the larger community. And that in-person element at the very beginning, which was not my initial instinct. My initial instinct was to have the in-person event at the end, because that's how it mostly happens. You have a long online event capped by an in-person event. That's awkward, because for a whole year you've been seeing people as 2D faces without any sort of body language cues. And then you're supposed to interact with them? No. And Father Adam, my boss, he was right. Have it at the beginning. So that's definitely an advantage that we have over other such programs, which are mostly online only. Another thing we are not is a beginner program. We certainly are not a beginner program. This is not for people who are just learning how to write. It's not for people who have ideas that they have not put into concrete form. This is a program that I call advanced beginner or early intermediate, sort of AuthorCraft 2.0 as opposed to AuthorCraft 1.0. There's a gap for this kind of instruction out there in the world, because either you're an advanced person, in which case there are super advanced workshops that you can go to, or you're a beginner, in which case there's a ton of stuff that can teach you the absolute basics of how to write. But this sort of thing, to get people who are already competent, who are already putting their talent to use, and giving them the tools to be able to become actual craftsmen, as opposed to just people who are occasionally inspired by good ideas, that's what I wanted to do. I found it to be a gap in the instructional world, and certainly in the Christian world, because there's not a lot of people in the Christian world that are teaching competent fiction techniques. So that's what we are not. What we are is a community. We are a community of writers who are all in it to help each other write and publish books, because we are at a point where there is a huge lack of the kind of book that we want to read, because every writer is a reader. So why not help each other write those things, and then eventually get them to a point where they can be publishable, and then even offer them, should they want it, the actual path for publication. Because as of this past year, we now have a publishing arm for St. Basil's Writers Workshop. It's called Wood Between World Publishing, Wood Between World Press, I should say. You can find us on Substack. We have a Wood Between Worlds Substack, which describes a lot of what we do and engages in the kind of jovial cultural criticism that we hope to inspire in the kinds of readers that we want to attract. And we've already published one St. Basil alum. That would be Anna van der Wal, who you see down there. And her book was launched to some rather spectacular success on Kickstarter, and it's continuing to go quite well with some lovely reviews and some great early sales. And I have submissions from 4 or 5 other St. Basil current and former students. that I'm currently considering for publication, and I can safely say that at least two of them will be published. They don't know this yet, but they will soon. It's a very exciting time because the energy of seeing your work go into a form that is actually being enjoyed by people in person, live, in a way that you can encounter, not simply in a virtual way, but in a real way. This is something really that I think we all agree we lack in this world that's become so increasingly virtualized. And the most important thing I wanted to underline is that over the past 4 years and three cohorts, there's been a real direction and a real growth in the mission itself of what St. Basil's is. More and more towards the idea that it's not simply a matter of teaching technique, but it's a matter of interacting with other people in a human, real way. That's the thing that's missing more than anything. That's the thing that used to cultivate real creativity. Interactions with real people in real spaces in real time in a very intense and focused manner. So the early retreat is the real selling point because you have a chance to grow with people and you can see that growth happen even in the first 5 days. Sabrina, like the Inklings, I didn't say it, you did, thank you very much, because we do consider ourselves to be reaching for that exalted title, heir to the Inklings. That's what we want to create. We want to create the next Inkling wave of beautiful, wonderful, mythic, deep fiction. That's what we are. And the urgency of it now is, I think, obvious to anyone. The fact that the publishing business is falling apart in front of our eyes, that most of the books that are published these days are not very good, and even the ones that are good sometimes have material that is highly objectionable and just in some cases simply gross and very often just not good for you. And we can say that because that's what we believe. We must learn how to discern good literature as something that can form you as a good human person. But that also means that bad literature can form you in the wrong way, can disorder your desires. We have to believe that because we know it's true. And it's unpopular to say that out loud, but we will say it. Because in this space, we know that this is something that has formed us and will form others, our children and their children after them. And it's our responsibility to create the kind of literature, the kind of art that will renew ourselves in the creative process and also renew others who come into contact with it, as high as that responsibility is. But I think this is a very urgent thing as the world around us is getting increasingly insane, increasingly crazy. And we're doing it slowly, but surely. And I invite you all to take part in it. Now, I'm going to take a brief recess now that I've done my spiel. And Anna, please take over the hosting of this and invite our dear, very reticent and, yeah, right, Kassiani, haha, and shy members of St. Basil so they can come and speak about the program as they see it. And I will, for the moment, actually, Anna, you have to become host first. Otherwise, I'll close the room by accident, right? Are you co-host?
I'm co-host, but can you make me host, or will that stop
Yes,
the recording?
that's a good question. Let's find
You
out.
could you could just mute it.
Okay,
Have
I'll
faith.
mute it. I'll take this off and I'll mute it and I'll leave. Okay, I'm not
Okay.
here.
Likely story.
See, he didn't hear that. There's the proof.
Exactly. Oh yeah. Oh, he's gone. Totally.
There you go. Dan, looks like you're volunteering to go first here.
Okay, I guess I did. I just realized I did that.
Dan
Um,
Neal, everybody.
Hi
Excellent
everybody.
guy. A really fun story. Dan is very well connected, and he had a friend who flew over our retreat during the retreat. What kind of plane was he flying, Dan?
Uh, uh, oh, what the heck is it? A C? Oh, I can't remember that. I can't remember it. I knew it at the time and I forgot it. C
That's
one.
fine. But it was like this earth-shattering noise. And he
My
was like, "Oh, that's my buddy. I told him I was going to be in this area." He said he
my
would fly by and wave at us.
my neighbor is in the Air Force and he's an Air Force. He trains pilots. And I told him where I was going, and he's like, "We're on the map." And I showed him on the map, and he said, "Oh, we fly over there all the time." And so we were all sitting around. I think it was on a Friday, and we just hear, and it really was extremely loud. And I texted him, I was like, was that you? He goes, yep. So that was fun.
That's great. That's great.
Um, so anyway, um, I could tell you very briefly about my path to St. Basil's. I think I found St. Basil's either through Jonathan Pajot or through Paul Kingsnorth, one or the other. I think that's how most of us did it. Um, and I didn't actually tell this entire story to everybody in our cohort, but at the time I was applying to doctoral programs while I work as a library director. And I was applying to doctoral programs because I thought, okay, this could be the logical next step. And then I found out about St. Basil's and I had like a real, okay, what do I do? Do I do a doctoral program or do I do a writing program? And I talked to my wife about it and she goes, what do you really want to do? I said, oh, I really want to do the writing thing. So I got nervous. I applied, I sent it all in, and I also applied to the doctoral program. And I said, well, if I get into the writing program, I'm not going to get into the doctoral program. So I got into the writing program. So I had to tell the doctoral program they couldn't have my money. So that was also kind of a nice feeling. But getting there, it was really fantastic because I'm one of the more talkative people, as you're probably discovering now. And I got there and it was one of those things where you're with 15 other people you've never really met before. So you're like, look, this could go like one of two ways. And it was like immediate. Everybody just got into sync with each other within, hours. And it was a very, a lovely few days of being with a bunch of other very creative people. And I'm not somebody who's used to sharing my writing or talking creatively. And it got to the point where I would go to bed and I'd be absolutely exhausted because I just used that part of my brain that I didn't use most of the time, except when I was in like a corner writing something. But I was exhausted in one of the most pleasant ways possible. And we're about halfway through the program now. And I can tell you absolutely that half of it is the strength of the program, the strength of the professors, but the other half of it is the strength of the cohort and how we're all on a group chat with each other and we're all encouraging each other and we're all talking all of the time and we're communicating, we're praying for each other. It's actually it's a beautiful text thread, and we're all just very encouraging of each other, and it is a definitely a propulsive force for my creativity in particular. And I'm writing more than I ever have, and I'm hoping to be pretty close to publication pretty soon, at least for a couple of short stories. So that's my spiel. I am very passionate about this group and this cohort and this entire operation, and I would promote it to anybody. So I'll stop so other people can talk. And if you have any questions, please shoot me a message. That's cool.
Thank you so much, Dan. Yeah, if we have time here at the end, after Cassiani, Abigail, Rachel, whoever wants to share, if we have time after that, before Deacon Nicholas gets back, let's open it up for some discussion with all of our other guests here. So, anyone else from cohort 3? Cassiani, I just saw your hand. Go for it.
Um, I'm laughing at his joke that, these shy, reticent people, oh, haha, not you, of course. And I'm just like, I'm sorry that you all have to put up with this, but it's okay. I have an interesting journey to St. Basil. So I have had a desire to write for a very long time. I've wanted to write since I was a kid. I used to write when I was a kid, honestly, just for fun. And I've loved reading for as long as I remember. I'm usually reading like several books at the same time. But I ended up, for a variety of largely practical reasons, in the world of business. And then, kind of an odd segue between the two things, I ended up in the creative business. So I ended up working for Disney, which at that point had been a lifelong dream for me. And I worked on brand and franchise strategy for Disney Princess, Frozen, and Disney Villains. And the way I found out about St. Basil was because while I was at Disney, I was trying to get in touch with as many creative Orthodox Christians as I possibly could, because I was trying to figure out, like, how do I do my job well? How do I do my job well as an Orthodox Christian? Because I feel such an enormous responsibility to have even the tiniest amount of stewardship over, stories I really love. Like, I love Beauty and the Beast and Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty and Mulan. Like, those are very, very near and dear to my heart kind of stories. But I was thinking, Disney's changed. Hollywood has changed. How do I do my job and do it to the best of my abilities as an Orthodox Christian with responsibility for good storytelling. So a friend of a friend got me in touch with Deacon Nicholas and said, you should really talk to Deacon Nicholas Kotar. He knows a lot about this. He's writing fantasy, like he's in that space. So I talked to Deacon and we had a really, really good conversation when I started my job at Disney. And he pointed me in the direction of a lot of cool resources on, the creative life, on storytelling, a great book called The Heroine's Journey by Gail Carriger, which he recommended I read in my work on princesses. But as time went on and I was at Disney, I was realizing that wow, that structure is much, much, much bigger and much above my head than I realistically have any hope of making a serious difference in. It's going to go the way that it's going to go. Unfortunately, that means that the stories that are being told are not always the stories that I wish were being told. But I mean, my creative spark didn't go anywhere. Like my desire to do something or to tell stories didn't go anywhere. And so I remember talking to Deacon. He said, hey, we have this group. It's called Story Hearth. I run it online, and you might find some like-minded people there. There are people who are creative, Christian, interested in this. And I think you would find the motivation that you need to do what you need to do there. So I started in Story Hearth, and Story Hearth kind of led into St. Basil for me. So I found out about it through Deacon, posting and talking in the Story Hearth about the St. Basil program because there's a lot of overlap there. A lot of the Story Hearth people are also in St. Basil. And so I applied and I got in, and it's been just a wonderful, wonderful thing. I ended up leaving Disney ultimately. I don't work for Disney anymore, but I am very happy and have found a lot of freedom in being with this group of people specifically. Like everything Dan has said is 100% true. I love this group of people. They are dear friends. They're delightful human beings. It is a very encouraging group. They're also they're really friends. We do catch up as often as we reasonably can. I do schedule phone calls with as many of those people as I can on a regular basis. And that has, in addition to the classes, like that's really kept me going. And I will also say glowing things about the classes too. The classes have been super helpful in refining where I want to go creatively, like what my direction is. And I will make a plug actually for one of the classes that I don't think anyone has mentioned so far, but which was my favorite, incidentally, even though it was only 2 sessions long. Samira Kawash does a class on giving and receiving feedback, which is my favorite class of St. Basil so far, because she has encouraged me to be a detective about my writing in ways that I've never thought about it in that way before. I didn't expect it, but to look at my writing as a reader and say, okay, if this is what you're trying to accomplish, what is the gap between the vision that is in your head and the thing that is coming out on paper? And I've loved that. That has been so, so helpful to me since then. So I love this class. I love this cohort. I couldn't possibly say enough great things about it. You should join.
Thanks, Cassini. We didn't rig this. We didn't pay anyone to say anything. Open invitation for everyone in cohort 3 to come in. So this is great. Abigail, Rachel, either of you want to say anything? Abigail, go for it. Rachel, I can't see you, so I apologize if you're waving your hands frantically and I'm not acknowledging you. So if you feel like jumping in after Abigail, please do.
Yeah, so my story is a little bit more straightforward, I guess. Um, I might be the youngest Basilian or among the youngest. Am I the youngest? Okay.
You're the youngest in not only in this cohort, but in the history of St. Basil's to date, and incredibly
Wow.
talented as well.
Thank
So
you.
well done. Oh, can I just interject? I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to say this is something that's really unique and really special about St. Basil's, is that the applications are judged purely on the quality of the writing, not on your longevity in the publishing world, not on the number of degrees you have under your belt, purely on the quality of your writing. And I think that's amazing because we've had people in our cohorts who are in their 70s who are have multiple doctorate degrees. We have people like Abigail, who's an 18-year-old genius. 18, 19 now?
18 still.
18. Okay, there you go. All right, now I'll stop talking again.
Um, yeah, I've always loved writing. I mean, I've loved writing since I was 4 or 5. I was writing books in crayon, on stapled pieces of paper. Um, and then in high school, I started to get a little bit more serious. Um, the book well, actually, the trilogy that I'm working on right now, I've been working on for the last 3 or 4 years. Um, and yeah, yeah, go away. Sorry about that. Um, but yeah, and so I guess I was looking for something like this before I even knew what I was looking for. Like I didn't know anything like this was out there. I mean, I listened to like Jonathan Peugeot and like I wasn't really on Substack, but I kind of knew that there were like people who were trying to do the same thing I was trying to do. And then I was at work one day and my mom emails me just this link. She said, "You have to look at this." And it was a link to St. Basil's. And I looked at it, I was like, no, this can't be real. This is impossible. There's no way that there's something out there that is exactly everything I need and everything I could have ever even imagined. Um, and the rest is history. I applied, I got in, and I mean, I'm just gonna echo everything that Cassiani and Dan were saying. I mean, this group is, I can't say enough good things about this group. You all are just amazing people, and just like the in-person retreat, it was just so amazing just to be in a room and even just like to talk, but even just to write together silently. There's something just magical and bonding about that, just a bunch of creative people being together. So yeah, I would recommend this to anyone too. It's amazing.
Thank you, Abigail. Rachel, do you have anything you want to jump in with?
Yeah, I can jump in. Sorry you can't see me. My camera isn't working. So I applied to the cohort prior to this, and I got waitlisted. Um, but they let me into this cohort. So I think if you're interested, but you're a little scared about, oh, we're not gonna like it. I'm not gonna get in. Just keep trying. It's just like with public publishing. You just keep pushing yourself out there, and you just keep crafting and trying your best. And so you never know what's gonna happen next. So just that perseverance really really matters. Um, so yeah, I think for me, in my experience with St. Basil, is just I feel like I'm not only becoming a better writer, I feel like in a way it's helping me learn how to be a better person, and just seeing the beauty around me and in other people. And so just trying to figure out how to put that to paper. And I really appreciate St. Basil's for doing that. And because, you can see the goodness in things and just a random tree or in, the way your cohort friend expresses themselves. Um, it's kind of been like a mental health boost. You would think that additional work would, degrade your mental health or stress you out, but it's not. It's like going to like it's just going to an art museum or reading a book. It's a stress relief. And so you're becoming a better person, you're becoming a better writer, and you're loving every moment of it. So I think definitely if you feel stuck and cynical and just in a rut, then you should really give this place a try and keep giving St. Basil's a try, even if it doesn't work out the first time. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, Rachel. That was really beautiful. Wow, right on cue. Well done. You are still muted.
I can't believe it looks like we lost no participants. I'm very surprised. I expected half of you all to leave immediately.
I was expecting that too, but
All right. Now it's your floor, lovely people. Those of you who are here for the first time, ask me your questions. What do you need to know about this program? And in the meantime, as they're getting ready to ask their very difficult questions, Anna, could you please put into the chat the application form site so they can go directly to it once you all decide you want to join.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So you can just start talking, raise your physical hand or raise your electronic hand, whichever you like. All right, Connor is asking a question. Good. A real hand.
Hey,
That's the
can you hear
right.
me?
Yes, I can hear you. Very good.
Awesome. Quick question. I'm a Wesleyan Christian,
Yeah.
so I'm not Eastern Orthodox. So I was just curious how I would fit at St. Basil's.
Yeah, we're not.
Would I be allowed?
Yes, yes. Yeah, we've had all kinds. We've had all kinds of Christians. This past year, we attracted a lot more Orthodox, but in previous years we've had mostly Catholics. So it's been all over the place. So we're not denomination specific, but I can't help being Orthodox. It comes out in everything
Oh,
I do.
absolutely. Yeah. I
So
love Eastern Orthodox.
yeah, no. So the quick answer is that you're more than welcome. Sue has questions. Go ahead, Sue. You're still muted. Still muted. There she is. Okay, try again.
Oh, okay, good, good.
Perfect.
I am curious about Anna's mentoring session in the spring, or I can't remember, she has a class, but people have the opportunity for individual mentoring with her. Is that kind of unlimited or once in the whole month, or what's the quantity
Are we
on?
talking about Catherine Hyde's mentorship?
Yeah. I'm sorry, not sure. Maybe I said that wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. So Catherine, if those of you who don't know, Catherine Hyde is a published author of various genres, both in the Christian space and in the secular space. And she's an excellent editor and a very, very good teacher. She's one of my mentors, and I'm eternally grateful for her for saying yes. Anna, correct me if I'm wrong. If I remember correctly, we have 2 1-hour-long sessions per semester, and it happens in the second semester. So you get a lot of the first semester is a lot about theory, and second semester is a lot more about tactics. And so in the second semester, you get more specific instruction on genre, on technique, and in that context, you get the opportunity to submit specific portions of your manuscript to Catherine and then meet with her where she very specifically talks about things that she finds as tendencies in your writing. So it's less about fixing a manuscript and it's more about shining a light on those parts of your writing technique that you need to work on. Does that make sense? It's extremely helpful. Sabrina, thank you so much for coming. I totally understand about the toddlers. I call them the barbarians. Those of you who know me know about the barbarians. So yes, thank you for coming. Susan, does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yes, thanks.
Go ahead, Anna.
I was going to say, if I might just add to that, the other great thing about Catherine's sessions is that it isn't just the hour that she spends with you. She also looks over a sample of your writing that's approximately 5,000 words twice. So she's doing a lot of work outside of that to prepare for it and really understands where you are in your writing journey, where your particular manuscript is, and then coming to the session with all of that.
Okay. Great, thanks.
David has a question in the chat. What does the process look like? What kind of sessions, interactions, classes, etc.? So each class is slightly different, and it will depend on the availability and the unique characteristics of each of our teachers. And those of you who know Paul Kingsnorth will understand what I'm talking about. But his classes are one kind of thing where you will have a 1-hour-long session and then a 2-hour session outside with the animals and the trees, and then another hour session together with Paul. So it's 4-hour blocks at a time once a week. That's not how the rest of the classes are structured, but it is how Paul's classes are structured. But if I could give as summarizing an answer as I can, it's something like 1 class per week during the class sessions, with a bit of a break, 2 weeks or so between each class. And those classes generally tend to be between 45 minutes to an hour, a little bit more than an hour sometimes, except for Paul's, which are very, very, very focused and very specific. And the sessions, they're all on Zoom. The time will depend primarily on the availability of the instructor, but the second thing that we consider is the availability of the cohort. And we ask all of you to let us know when you're available. And in the past, there have been situations where people who have 9 to 5 jobs or have very, very regimented schedules have had difficulty to come in coming to the live sessions, but those people have been very few and far between. Most of the time, most of the people are present at the live sessions, and we try to accommodate you as much as we can. It's impossible to accommodate everybody at all times. This is just the nature of being human, and there's nothing we can do about it. Believe me, we've tried. We tried every single possible permutation of trying to fit everybody in some possible way. We just have to accept the limitations that we're not, accept the fact that we are limited creatures. We are not angels or God. So most of the time, most people are together at the live sessions, and it seems to work fairly well. Now, other than that, interactions, classes, there is some homework, but that will also depend on the classes. Some homework is done in the class. Paul's class in particular, you're going to do the homework as part of the session when you're outside communing with nature. You'll also be writing. Other classes will have homework that's a single assignment that's stretched out over the entire class. Others will have more focused homework assignments that are for each week, but it generally doesn't take more than an hour or two per week of additional work. If there's more specific questions about logistics, I invite you to ask them, but we have some people in the queue, as the English would say, and the Canadians, I suppose. Todd, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So, perhaps this question relates to the ways in which St. Basil is different from MFA programs, as you were saying. Perhaps that's where this will go. But
Yeah.
So back when I was a teenager, I already knew I wanted to creative write. In fact, the idea I had for the novel I'm currently working on, I had in high school, and it's taken on a life of its own. We
Yep.
talked about
Yes.
this. Yes. And when I was a teenager, I took all kinds of writing workshops. I did summer courses in creative writing through the Johns Hopkins program and some other stuff. And I hated them. And one of the main reasons that I hated them was that there was it was very frequent in the classes that exercises in spontaneous writing were a core feature. Okay, thank God, because I'm like, I was surrounded by people who seemed to have this capacity to just like, here's the assignment, just start writing, and I was utterly paralyzed. Like, I mean, as much as I wanted to, as hard as I tried to force myself, I simply could not do like writing exercises under time pressure. That just never even remotely jived with me. And
Yeah.
so, despite a lifelong ambition towards like novel writing, I literally never took a creative writing class in undergraduate because I'm like, I'm not doing that again.
You're smart. That means you still have a chance to become a writer, that you didn't take those creative writing classes. Believe me.
Okay, I'm glad to hear this because I just my worry about any kind of writing program, St. Basil's or otherwise, is
Yeah.
like, is my money going to be wasted if I join this program and then I'm expected to be able to like churn out this in 2 hours and I just simply can't.
No, absolutely not. That stuff is total nonsense, and it's built on a very strange idea that self-expression is and authenticity are the ultimate barometer of quality work. That is
Thank you.
nonsense. That is total nonsense. Fiction writing is a craft, as in it has rules. It has techniques that apply regardless. Now, you can choose to disregard the techniques, in which case you are doing an experimental piece of fiction. But if you do that because you understand how the techniques of writing fiction work, and you consciously choose to disregard them as a conscious choice. That's fine. You can do that. The point is that most people who learn how to do creative writing at any level, whether it's middle school, high school, or college, are not actually taught the fundamentals of writing fiction. They're not that difficult, and they don't stilt your writing. They're simply it didn't used to be all that strange for art forms to have rules attached to them. Think of this more as the medieval model, where you had a guild, and the guild had masters whose job wasn't to uncover the hidden genius of their apprentices. It was to teach them the techniques in order to belong to that particular guild / school, right? Michelangelo Leonardo, etc., they had schools. And so you have sculptures, paintings, etc., in the Renaissance that are not ascribed to a specific person, but are considered to be great works of art and are labeled as member of this person's school. Now, we're not going quite that far, as in you're not going to lose your name, but it's the same kind of approach in that it realistically approaches the process of creativity as both a product of inspiration, as in the co-creative act between you and God, but also an act of technique. And the two together, when you master both, that's what creates art. And that's not what you get in most creative writing courses. And I want to bring your attention to a comment that Dan put in. One of his best friends is currently getting an MFA from Harvard, and he frequently says that he wishes his program in Harvard did what we do in St. Basil's. I love this. Somebody put it on a brochure.
I might ask him to quote it so we can put it on there, but I frequently talk to him. He's like, even the peer review one, he's like, we don't do any of that. I'm like, sorry, dude.
Yep. So Todd, if there's more, if you need, do I need to be quieter? Okay. All right. So yeah. So if there are more questions about that, ask them again later, but I want to address a few more things in case we run out of time.
I think that covers my main concern.
Awesome. All right, David, you're asking about the focus on writing and creativity or in the business publishing of getting things out. Something like 80% of the course is a craft course. At the very end, before we finish, there's a short business of publishing course that I offer that is a pivot point away from the purely creative and craft towards the realistic application of the craft to the business aspect of writing. It's not a pitch for anything. It's just a very honest look at how the publishing world exists. After which, I do give, at the very end, I explain to you what your options are as a St. Basil's grad. You have Wood Between Worlds Press as a possible option for submission. You have self-publishing as a possible submission, and you have guided self-publishing in other programs that I offer, which I'm not going to talk about today. So it's mostly craft, but at the end we do get a little bit of that because you can't have one without the other. Not in this world, unfortunately, or fortunately, depends on how you look at it. Kendrick, please, you've been waiting for a long time. Go ahead.
No worries, thanks. It's good to meet you all, and it's great to hear the community impact that you all are having. Nicholas, I also wanted to introduce myself as a fellow home birth husband. So I didn't get a call during the birth, but I was there all day, and then I finally had to take the dogs out eventually, and that's when the assistant midwife had to chase me down. So
yeah.
I hear you there.
Yeah, very good.
So you answered a little bit about this before. My work has me traveling a lot, particularly in the fall, in places with very little service. In the event that I would miss a live session, is it appropriate to still follow up with instructors or the community or to catch up on with a recording or anything like that? Is that okay? How would that work?
Yeah, we record everything.
Yeah.
The class the classes are held on Zoom, so the recording process is fairly easy. There's also a dedicated space within an existing writers community called the Story Hearth, and I'll answer Connor's question in a second. Connor asked a question about the Story Hearth, where there's a dedicated space where the rest of the writers in the community don't have access to, and it's essentially a gated social network with a closed forum that's specific to the members of St. Basil's. So all of the classes are posted there, whether or not you were there. So you have access to the recordings, whether you missed them or you want to brush up on something. And it's also an opportunity to ask questions directly of the instructor inside that space. And you will also have access to the instructors in terms of being able to contact them in personal messages through the website, though we don't give out their personal emails, as I'm sure you understand, because some of them are too high profile.
Sure.
So that's how that would work.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Awesome. Heidi, I'll get to you in a second. There's one question here that I want to answer about the Story Hearth. Connor's asking about the Story Hearth community, especially in terms of recommended experience level, or which to start with, an overlap of content and cohort. I opened up the Story Hearth community with the intention of getting people who are at beginner stage ready for St. Basil's. So that's how it started. The process of organizing it was to offer a space for authors to have access to me in monthly webinars where I would give them the basic instruction that they would need, both in craft and in business, to get them ready for St. Basil's. It has changed a little bit. That instruction is available in the courses part of the Story Hearth community. It's become a kind of its own thing, where writers come to have an online community space where they do accountability with each other, and we have an ongoing conversation about the nature of the creative life that I'm cultivating with them. But it's still geared primarily towards beginner writers, although there are writers who are not only beginners on there. So the instructional component of it is intended for beginners, but we have had people stick around even after they've sort of graduated from beginner status, and it's becoming a kind of place outside of the virtual place for the kinds of writer that St. Basil is meant for, whether you're somebody who's going to eventually graduate to it or somebody who's graduated from it. We've had people who finish St. Basil's and continue on the Story Hearth community with great pleasure. So go ahead, Heidi, it's your turn.
Thank you so much. It's been great to hear all this.
Awesome.
My question is a bit to do with genre. I'm
Yeah.
curious if you have any writers in the cohorts that veer into some of the more literary or like sufficiently narrative forms of nonfiction, or if the fiction focus is pretty absolute for the program.
We've always been open to writers who write narrative nonfiction. We've had mixed success in terms of those writers getting what they need out of the program. And I think it's less a function of the program and more a function of how prepared the writers are to take on instruction that's primarily geared towards fiction writers, but can be applied to nonfiction writers if you're willing to kind of take the extra leap and take the learning that you have from the kind of structure of how fiction works and applying it to your nonfiction narrative. For some people, that's a jump too far, but if you've ever read Ursula Le Guin's Steering the Craft, I think is her craft book, she explicitly says that her instruction is primarily for fiction writers, but it's just as applicable for narrative nonfiction. And I'm in the same boat. The things that I'm highly influenced by her educational approach. I use a lot of her stuff in my courses, and I found that it can be very useful, but it will require some people to kind of make a leap on their own.
And for the application process, then, is fiction still required for the initial sample,
No.
or could nonfiction?
Nonfiction is fine. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. David had a comment here. For what it's worth, my MFA during the Clinton administration was all about pure, beautiful, wonderful, oh, aren't we lovely craft, in a different sense that we mean it, yes. You, I think, bring craft and communicability marketing together in a more holistic sense. Well, that's a very good question, David. And David is asking this question because David is taking a publishing masterclass with me. So we're thinking about this a lot of the business stuff. The point is that really good marketing flows out of your writer persona, and it's not a business action. It's simply who you are and how you present yourself. And in other words, your fiction itself is your marketing vehicle. So we're not going to talk about craft as a marketing mechanism, but we are going to teach you how to craft your own distinct style within the strictures, as it were, of the techniques of fiction. And in that, you find your voice, and in the finding of your voice, you find the best way of approaching the world with your writerly self, as it were. You're smiling, David, because you know what I'm talking about. All right. So yeah, it's not about, oh, aren't we lovely craft? No. You might be lovely, but it's not about that. Okay, Connor, go ahead.
Yeah, so concerning the homework, is most of it kind of to go along with what Todd was saying about kind of spontaneous writing sessions. I personally really resonate with what you were saying, Todd. I agonize over my writing. I'm a notoriously slow writer. But one of my questions was concerning the homework. Namely, would I ever be able to work, or maybe not would I ever be able to, but would the would the majority of the homework be geared towards my current writing project that I'm on, the novel that I've been writing, or would it be more of side projects that would hone particular elements of the craft?
It's a good question, and I think the process is one that we're still kind of working on. There are some classes where you will be doing a separate writing assignment, separate writing assignments, because what they're doing is not working on the craft specifically, but working on widening your perspective as a creative, especially in the first half of the year. The first course you're going to take is essentially a course in how to integrate your spiritual life into your writing, and there's a memoir component to it that's very it's a profound experience for those who have gone through it and done it properly, and it wouldn't be appropriate to use those tools, to use those assignments to apply it to your fiction work, because it's about digging deep in your own self. But you could then apply those things that you've learned to how you write your fiction, certainly, but not as part of the homework. That being said, there will be certain courses, Jonathan Peugeot's and mine in particular, where you will be able to take the specific homework assignments and apply them directly to your manuscript, yes. Dan can confirm. Abby says the biggest, most time-consuming homework assignments we've had so far are critiquing each other's work. This is the first half of the course. In the second half, you're going to do a lot more work that's not about critiquing. It's more about working on the details of your own course, of your own style and your own work. Yeah. Go ahead, Connor. You had more questions.
Yeah, sorry if
not at all. Go ahead.
You can't hear me, Susan. Can I assume everyone else can hear me?
Yeah.
Just about. So I hope I didn't miss it, but are the lectures recorded so that I can re-review them as time goes on? Awesome.
Yes.
And then just to piggyback off that one, I'm sorry, I have so many questions.
That's okay. That's what we're here for.
One of my concerns, and I'm just going to be very blunt. One of my concerns is that St. Basil is a newer program or a newer workshop. And so you guys will be eager to fill up the cohort. And one of my concerns is either that I would be accepted and not benefit as much as I really would wish to, or that I'm actually not quite advanced enough to actually fit well into the program. So I guess what that boils down to is, do you reject people even if like the cohort isn't quite as full as you would prefer?
Well, we've only had that problem in the second year, as I mentioned. We had just enough people to be able to fill it if we accepted everyone, and the quality wasn't there in year 2, so we didn't have a cohort. In years 3 and 4, we had a lot of applications, and I had the luxury of choosing extremely talented, competent, high-level writers, so that everybody would be learning from each other. And I think cohort 3 can confirm the level of writing that they all heard at the first retreat, where we were sharing some of our writings with each other, was absurd. It was absurd how good it was. So you needn't worry about that. I'm somebody who will shut the program down before we have sub quality work. That's not what this is about.
Awesome. That's good to hear.
All right. Any more questions? Looks like we answered all of them. Fantastic. Connor has one more. Okay, go.
Just to confirm, I apologize. I tend to have a very busy life, a job, part-time job. About to have my first baby. Not this moment, but you know what I mean. But I just wanted to confirm that you said, aside from the lectures themselves, which can vary in length, but usually 45 minutes to an hour, did you say it was about an hour of extra homework a week?
Yeah, I think that's fair. An hour, 2 hours. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
And none of the homework is, as it were, required. I mean, we're not going to come to your house and check that you did it. Obviously, the people who do it get a lot more out of the program. But the point is not to overburden you with extra work. It's about fitting in everybody's busy schedules in a way that enriches your writing for the long term, not simply for the purposes of the cohort. Anna is sharing a quick behind-the-scenes look that we already have several applicants for this cycle too. Yeah, we have we have almost 20 applications for 15 spots. So I expect more. So don't be deterred. It's not. Yeah, I don't fill them. It's not a rule. It's not rolling admissions. I don't read anybody's work until we closed applications, so that I can be fresh with everybody and not in any way be privileged. Not in any way. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm sure you. I'm just a writer. Oh dear. Yeah, I don't know. We can share the snippet. I don't think it's appropriate for this venue, and I don't really remember exactly which one it was, and we'd have to ask Latane certainly. But yeah, speaking of those who are more in the more literary vein, Latane is our elder statesman who writes historical literary fiction, and man, it's incredible. Yeah, she's a genius. There you go. Which answers maybe the question that some of you are not wanting to ask, and that's age. We have people from 18 to 78, so it doesn't matter. All right. Well, if you have no other questions, I will let you all go. I've been torturing you all for long enough. Thank you all for coming. It's been a pleasure to see some new faces here. I hope to see your applications before February 28th, sooner rather than later, just so I feel happy with the number that we have. And like I said, not rolling, so it doesn't matter. But I will say that 2 of the spots are already filled, but that's not because it's rolling admissions. It's because we have people from previous cohorts who were unable to make it due to various family situations, that they had their spaces set aside for the future year. So actually, we have only 13 available spots this year. So apply. It's totally worth it. And I honestly really enjoy reading the submissions. So don't be afraid about making them too polished or whatever. It's not about the polish. It's about the writer. It's about the technique, the talent, all that. So, and again, Anna shared that link in the chat, stbasilwriters.com. The application form is there. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for coming out on a Thursday evening, and hopefully I will see emails from all of you tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. See you all soon.
Cheers,
Bye.
all. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.